So good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming for the panel. So the discussion is around tech pioneers, collaboration for the intelligent age. And I know this is the last panel just before the cocktail reception, so I can imagine everybody's excited, and I'm also happy that you will listen to us carefully and have this discussion and also open for Q&A session after that. So this is for the first time for me in WEF in Davos, and if you take a walk on the street, it's all about technology, agents, and AI. So AI is not only evolving an industry, but it's also fundamentally changing how we interact, how we learn, how we collaborate, and how we connect with ourselves within the global society. And if I look back, the technology has evolved from being not merely a tool or IT, it is becoming a collaborator, working hand in hand with humans in order to innovate and also reshape our future in the intelligent age. And what did I learn in the last 3 days? Intelligent age is all about artificial intelligence, process automation, and connected devices. And I learned the new word, physical AI. So by the way, I like the word physical AI better than robotics. So this is fundamentally disrupting exactly what we do in everything we do, starting with academics, big organization, venture capitalists, startups, and also the whole ecosystem is fundamentally being rescaled and redefined. So if I look at how do we unlock the potential of AI in this new world, it's all about building up resilient ecosystem, and collaboration is going to play an important role. And that's what we plan to do today for the next 48 minutes. So I have my esteemed panelists today in the room. So before we start with the session, let me introduce. So let me start first with, so I have my notes, Professor Dr. Andreas Krauss. So chair of ETH AI Center at ETH Zurich and a leading authority on ethical and scalable AI technologies. So Andreas is going to talk about how do you embed compliance and regulatory in AI solutions and how to make AI more responsible. So then we have Ms. Lu Zhang, founder and managing partner of Fusion Fund, a renowned Silicon Valley-based investor with a strong technical background. And Lu will discuss how collaboration can drive successful commercialization of technology and AI. And I think that's very important.
Yeah.
So third guest is Dr. Rasmus Roth. I think more or less everybody knows him. He's the co-founder and CEO of the venture studio Merantix and the visionary behind the AI campus in Berlin. And I learned now in London too. So he's going to talk about the building blocks and blueprints required to create strong ecosystem in the intelligent age. And then the next speaker is Mr. Anurang Revri, a chief enterprise architect at Stanford Healthcare with over 30 years of experience as a technology executive. Anurang will highlight the decisive elements necessary for a responsible AI lifecycle and also from the operations perspective. And AI is all about agility. So we also have a special guest in the room, Leila.
My name is Leila Tretikov. I am a partner and head of AI strategy for NAA, which is a venture capital firm in Silicon Valley, one of the OGs, what we call original gangsters out there. Before this, I was deputy CTO for Microsoft. I took AI out of the lab for them. Before that, I was CEO of Wikipedia. I'm a serial entrepreneur myself. I started my first company when I was 19, so I know a couple of things about it.
Wow, 19, yeah. This is amazing. So happy to have you on the panel. And myself, Ashish Madan, I'm CTO and managing partner with KPMG in Germany. So I'm going to host a session today and going to take my notes. So what I take back with me from you guys. So let me start with the first question. So Professor Dr. Andreas Krauss, collaboration has always been key to driving progress. And if I look at information age, we saw the paradigm shift coming because of the rise of internet. And as we transit from information age to intelligent age, what are the parallels and differences you see between the information age and intelligent age?
I guess we're all trying to figure out what the intelligent age really is, right? So it's very here. Of course, the information age is really characterized by the rise of digital technologies, personal computers, the internet, mobile computing, and really enabled us as humanity, right, to, in a way, digitize our world, right, to store, manipulate, and share, communicate information in orders of magnitude faster than was possible before, but was was really difficult up to maybe 10 years back or so, is for computers to understand really the natural world around us, right? To understand language, understand images and the likes. And that's what really has fundamentally changed, of course, over the years, right? Through the advent of machine learning, deep learning, and the likes, right? That, of course, the core technology behind what is now generative AI. And if you think about large language models, right, that's really the most common type of information substrate now. It's really a very different kind of information technology now than, say, classical databases, right? And really shouldn't be confused by those, right? Very different ways of kind of extracting insights from, manipulating, kind of understanding, and also informing decisions informed by massive amounts of unstructured data, right? And of course, that's really sort of changing the game. And of course, also opening up many new opportunities of collaboration, right? Also in terms of human AI interaction, of course.
And I think I resonate with that. And the biggest part is around the structured and the unstructured part. I think this was not the case in the past.
Yep.
So, Anurang, if I look at you, and coming from Stanford, could you share some standout examples you have seen in the market, working in the healthcare industry, and some kind of blueprints, some models, what you have seen?
Yeah, so I think, in my role, amongst other things, I also have the data science team that's responsible for translating a lot of research or vendor solutions into clinical workflows. There are two ways to categorize all the solutions that are out there. There's the standard AI and now the Gen AI, right? Within that, there are solutions that we either build ourselves or somebody in research, does some research, says, hey, this is a great solution. We translate that into clinical workflows, or vendor solutions we buy. Some examples of that are, we partnered with Microsoft pretty early in ambient AI to take a lot of the, the dialogue that's happening between the physician and the patient, and instead of the physician sitting and typing notes, it's being recorded and we are transcribing that into notes. So that's an example that we worked with them pretty early on. We've been working with them for a couple of years, but now we are scaling it. Actually, we've rolled it out to all primary care and outpatient. Next is nursing and the emergency department. So, so people can be hands-free and focus on the patient. So that's an example of that. We're also building solutions to using Gen AI, things like, helping with response generation for the messages we get from the patients, and helping augmenting essentially providers to provide responses. Also, like summarization of patients' present history of illness, helping the patient itself themselves actually understand the test results, because I don't know, at least in the US, when you look at the test results, it looks like you need a PhD to understand them. So we are helping using ChatGPT to make it simpler for them. And we are writing some custom tools as well. So there are a lot of partnerships that are required. That's why I love this panel here, because it requires working with the physicians, it requires working with a lot of new startups, and then the established vendors themselves. And that's how it's all coming together. And so the collaboration is very natural for us, I think, from that perspective.
And I think you touched base on the topic of collaboration is all about partnership across different players in the market. So if Rasmus, you are playing a key important role from Merantic's perspective. So how do you see, if when government, startups, organization, healthcare organization, venture capital funds, they're coming together.
Yeah.
And when collaboration is becoming more and more important, how do you define a resilient ecosystem for that kind of collaboration model? Because if you have to define resilience for a corporate house, that's different. But we're talking about resilience of an ecosystem. So what's your view on that?
I think there's a few key points to this. I think the first one is we also all don't know. We all don't know what we'll talk about here next year, the year after, 3 years. We can all guess, and even some of the greatest AI researchers, guessing when some new stuff will come out, and they were completely wrong, and they were very close to the topic. I mean, obviously, there's trends, and they're accelerating, but here and there are breakthroughs. Suddenly, things start to work. Yes, LLMs got better, but then, there was a breakthrough, at least to the public and the general perception. Now robotics, humanoids is the next topics, many more, maybe others. So I think things are just moving so fast that it's super important to be in exchange with others, and not just from a kind of research perspective, but also from an industry perspective. Like, when are things ripe that they actually get like broader adoption? And so that exchange is just super important, and across industries, across like stakeholders, whether it's research, policy, on the regulatory side. I mean, like, it's also hard to regulate. I don't want to regulate AI, not because I don't think it should be, but like, it's really hard to figure out what makes sense there. So I think like bringing these different stakeholders together is super key, and I mean that's also one of the reasons for the AI House to not do product placement here, but to have people from different geographies, different stakeholders discuss, disagree, share perspectives, and ultimately like do things together, right? It could be business, it could be research collaborations, it could be things on the policy side, and I think that's super key. That's why the AI House hopefully makes sense, and then also we've been doing the AI campus in Berlin. But the key is also that everybody needs to get something out of it for their work, right? Like, I mean, with Andreas, I mean, very different objective from the research side and from a kind of investor perspective. But like, hopefully we both go home and are like, okay, we got a few new contacts, we learned a few new things, and do this again. And so I think that's really key, and it's something that we need to see more. And that's kind of more on the kind of ecosystem, like one-to-one level. The other part is like kind of when you're on a broader policy strategic side. I mean, yesterday, or I guess this morning, right when I went to bed, I read about the 500 billion being invested in the US, and I mean that's also, I mean, like a strategic partnership, right? It's also like not even the US government, or not even OpenAI or SoftBank or Oracle who do this themselves. They're also partnering, because some bring capital, some bring like expertise, some bring GPUs, some train models, like, and partner together. And I think we need to do that on a small level, but also on a very large level between all these cycles, because only then, we move forward, we can accelerate and be competitive.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's very interesting, because if I hear that, then partnership is all about win-win situation, from that perspective. So, and Lou, you have an experience, and you also have an experience, so that's a question for both of you, Leila and Lou, so you can decide who wants to start first. That if you look at it from the commercial perspective, and I've been talking to so many people and in VEF, but with my clients, what we're discussing, and there's the topic at AI House after the hype. And there's a moment when people and organizations are thinking about what's the return on investment
Exactly.
when it comes to AI. So what's your viewpoint on that when you look at it purely from commercialization perspective, and how this collaboration is going to play an important role in order to make AI more commercial and more viable for the organizations?
Yeah, very timely topic. I just had some discussion with a couple of Fortune 500 CEO of the traditional sector this morning. And they are asking me the same question: what is the ROI of AI?
Yeah.
No matter how fancy the AI model is, they essentially are calculating not only just the cost reduction, what is the revenue part? I'm paying extra for this solution, what am I getting from it? And how soon I can see the integration happen? How soon we can see this really expanded across different divisions? And yes, we want to engage with CTO from the large corporate to do an initial pilot program. Eventually, we also want to get CFO on board, and CFO are looking at the numbers. So this really required lots of understanding of the industry needs, and also building up the AI solution very practical. Go back to the topic of the panel. That's when the collaboration community building become very essential and critical. So we, as early stage investor, not only we spend time with technologists, entrepreneurs, etc., we're also building community ourselves in order to make sure commercialization will happen at the right time, and we're putting money into the right company. So since 2018, we've been launching this network called Fusion CXO Network. One of my partners I recruited for is a former CTO of HP. So collectively, we have over 40 members. They're all CTO from Fortune 1000 company. Every quarter we get together. We have our next webinar next Tuesday. What do we discuss? We share what is going on. They tell us what is going on in the large corporate discussion, whether they have budget ready to go. You could have edge computing AI 10 years ago. They may like it, but they don't have budget for it. Now they're ready to go for which division. That's very important. So ROI discussion is number one thing. And also based on that, think about collaborating across technology owner and also industry leader. You also want to understand what is your position as a startup company. Are you directly competing with the top priority of NVIDIA, of Google? This is a whole ecosystem play. AI is a huge market, but doesn't mean all the opportunity belongs to the smaller startup. So we need to be smart on where to spend money. We also have another network called the Super Founder Network. I started in 2015. Similar as Leila, I started my first company when I was 21, was doing my PhD at Stanford. So I know a bunch of serial entrepreneur friends. After I sold my company, Star VC firm, they were joking, you went to the dark side. Sounds like
Dark
shark.
side.
I'm like, Don't call me shark. I'd rather to be a dolphin.
We've got cookies.
Yeah, still predator, but smart and compassion work as a group. So we have this different community. They form a community itself and also mingle with each other. You can see the energy and also the knowledge sharing creates so many opportunity. And we're saying the real vertical AI company launched, deploy, generating $100 million revenue with a small team. It's truly happening because they're practical.
Wow. Well, I like the anecdote about the shark, dolphins. I love killer whales. So, Lala, what's your view on that? Coming back and, from the same background and looking at from Microsoft perspective in your previous role and now with the company, how do you see that, the commercialization?
Look, I think we are very early in the commercialization cycle still. I remember talking to CIOs, and they would be so excited because they have 1,000 AI projects going on because, the board and the CEO are asking every other day, what are we doing with AI? And then I would ask them, how many are in production? They'd be like, 1. And the problem is that we're very early. It's like you asked about the parallel of the internet. We are in that very first phase of the internet. We're still like surveying text over, TCP/IP kind of situation. And if I were to really make a comparison to the internet, I think internet was kind of like, think of it as a printing press. When printing press came to Europe for the first time, it really revolutionized communication. Right, it allowed us to really rapidly print books, and the first was, of course, the Bible, right, and made everybody literate, and then it made an explosion of literature, right? And the internet kind of provided the same thing for us, right? Internet connected us all. It allowed us to communicate. It allowed us to collaborate. For the first time, if you remember, CRISPR was discovered by 2 women. Jennifer was at UC Berkeley, and Emanuela was in France, right? And they collaborated over Skype, to develop something that created a Nobel Prize, right? And laid a foundation for genomics. So AI is the books that we're going to write on top of the internet platform, right? And we're in the very beginning of writing that next chapter of humanity. And I think not only do we get to collaborate with each other, we get to collaborate with this new brain that AI is going to provide for us, and we get to develop something entirely new. And I think the really interesting part is so where we are right now is we're just in the beginning of this implementation. We need the tools to actually make this AI even work, right? We think that we've got these models, yeah, all right, let's go. But the reality is the system around AI is not there yet, right? We don't have the safety systems. We don't have the rollout systems. We don't have the stack. The data center is completely new, right? It's completely flipped how we build the data centers, right? So all of this is in flux and being built. So we're going to start this year, we're going to start to see more diffusion because people are starting to see the ROI. They're starting to roll it out. But the real value, collaborative value, is going to be when this AI is going to start collaborating with us. And the things that we're going to decode are going to be our own brains, are going to be our bodies, are going to be the physics of the universe. That's the really exciting stuff.
So I love that, when you said that it's going to redefine the humanity. And I agree to that. That's the new way of writing a Bible. I think that's something what I was reading in the book.
Whichever book you are.
Nixus, yeah. I think that's a Nixus, and I'm a big fan of that. So I agree on that front. So and taking back because we're talking about there's a big elephant in the room. I'll call it like that because I work in Germany. So I'm looking at Rasmus right now and Andreas. So what is the big elephant in the room? We see that. On one side, there's the big things happening. You'd like it or dislike it. That's not the question. But the big thing is that US is going to move very fast when it comes to innovation, when it comes to helping AI, be it in the sector of AI infrastructure, as you mentioned, $500 billion US. That's a number. And what do you think, when it comes to? So I'll look at Rasmus and Andreas, and then you have to pick it up. So first, to you, Andreas. Talking in terms of regulatory, data privacy, I think ethics is important. But how does it, first question is, what is the value and where is collaboration with the regulatory bodies and the government is going to play an important role in order to create more value? That's what Dana just mentioned about for Europe, from the regulatory perspective.
It's an incredibly complex topic, right? And of course, AI has been and is the stuff of dreams and nightmares, right? There's lots of excitement about it, but also lots of fears of it. trust is key for the adoption of this technology. And of course, responsible AI ethics are really top of mind for a lot of us in academia, the AI industry, and deployers of AI systems, right? And of course, there's also the regulatory picture, right, with the AI Act that came into force in August, that you're alluding to, probably. And so now I think there's a lot of really key challenges that do require collaboration. So I think one of the key challenges in the space, for example, is that responsible AI frameworks and also the AI Acts and other principles, the OECD principles, for example, stipulate high-level ethical principles and requirements like robustness, fairness, explainability, and the likes, right? That then really need to be mapped to concrete technical frameworks of how to assess, evaluate these types of systems, right? So that's something that we've been very actively engaging with our collaborators at ETH and a spin-off that I founded a while back called Lattice Flow. But there's also, of course, the question of how to really push forward the technology to develop trustworthy models. And so that's also, of course, top of mind of a lot of us in the space. And so there's a large initiative in Switzerland called the Swiss AI Initiative, catalyzed by our new supercomputer in Lugano, that really aims to build as transparent as we can, really pushing the frontier also in terms of responsible development of these systems, next generation foundation models that are as open, transparent, and trustworthy as we can. So lots of methodological innovation that we needed to make these models more interpretable, more robust, better aware of what they don't know, and the like. So lots of really key challenges that require a lot of collaboration along the way.
So also collaboration with the regulatory bodies, I would call it like that. And Rasmus, what's your view on that?
I mean, I agree to everything what Andreas said, but I think the whole regulation topic should, like, we should make that elephant like very small and put it in the corner and keep it there, intact with it, get it done. I mean, it's super important. I agree, and we need regulatory certainty is all good, but like, you know, imagine like 20 years when the internet like started to take off and we would have just like talked like in Europe like 80% of the time about regulation. That's probably right now if I Google like AI articles in like the German media, probably like 80% is about like regulation or about like this is one case where some AI went wrong and like how bad that is and like not, you know, comparing it properly with like all the human errors that are happening in the world. So I think we just need to shift that narrative because otherwise we end up in a world where we will, I mean, then have humanoid robots in our, I don't know, in Germany, car factories, but they will not be built here. So we will not have even many workers anymore. There will be robots that will not be in Europe. And let's try to regulate after. I mean, like, that's really hard. I mean, we see that with the cloud providers now with the EU trying to regulate them. So the best way to regulate is make sure these companies get built here. The research is done here, like Andreas, the startups, I mean, he's working on also are built here. But then also have an impact here. And then on the way, figure out how to regulate. Because back to my first point, like the hard part about AI is regulating is not like regulating the status quo, but it's changing all the time. So, and then regular bodies are slow. So we need to be there. It's an important topic we need to work on. But the biggest thing is to really build the applications and drive that also in Europe. And that should be the narrative. Also coming back to the point of the RI, like bring it into the real world, have an impact, have a positive impact. Also this narrative of like, and yes, there are some crazy people there, but like a lot of, I mean, at least in our, and we have a bunch of high-risk AI companies that work in like healthcare in many areas. Like the engineers worry an incredible amount about like what they deploy. I mean, there's like where they set the threshold, what they do, and any biases when they take it to another region because they know what kind of impact they have. And yes, there should be more training and, you know, there should be guidelines. I agree with everything, but like this narrative that like all these AI people are like bad terminators and, you know, want to harm the world. It's not true. Yes, there are some, but like the majority really want to have a positive impact in these high risk, but also high reward areas. And I think that narrative just needs to change. In the US, it's different. In Europe, we are just like, yeah. I mean, and maybe it's the press, maybe, I don't know, it's some people working on it. I don't know.
I think
just
that's
trying to
our
change
job.
it at least. Like,
That's our job. I would say that that's a job of, you know, a professional service firm like KPMG. But it's also the job of, you know, the startup companies, venture capitalists, the government, the academics, everybody coming together. And I think that's, and make the elephant small. I like that word.
But keep the elephant.
Yeah.
But keep the elephant. We need to. I like, because that's important as a guardrail. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to quickly add in one point. Maybe lots of people don't agree with me, but if you look at it, we talk a lot about regulation in the context of consumer application or in the tech sector. But when you look at the bigger market is that AI application, as you mentioned, for healthcare, insurance, financial industry, logistics industry, this industry have something in common. They're highly regulated industry for more than a decade. So regulation is another new thing. And also the key of the regulation discussion right now is really the data. And data is the tricky part. So for this industry, actually might be easier than your expectation in terms of how they understand the regulation in the context of AI, because regulation is now new, and it's a big market.
It's a big market. I like
Yeah.
that. And Anurag, you come from the healthcare sector, and you have seen and you have done an implementation. If you talk about making scalable, big AI solutions, and also in a very difficult sector like healthcare, where data, quality of data, all thing is important. So, what kind of frameworks and what kind of viewpoint you have seen, particularly based on your experience when it comes to technology and operation part of that?
Yeah, and I'll mostly speak to the U.S. side of things because that's what I know. And I'll start with just a comment on the regulation, and then I'll get into the framework because it's related. I don't know. I mean, healthcare is a very regulated industry, so I don't know what we are regulating. Like, are we regulating the models? Are we regulating? I mean, we are not doing anything autonomous right now, right? We don't have agents sitting over there giving you clinical care. Now, that may happen at some point, and then we can regulate those, right? Like autonomous cars out there, who insures them, and if the car hits somebody, is it, who are we insuring? So those kinds of things will come up, and I think they will evolve over time. I don't get too worked up about that. And I do think, by the way, no matter whether they're Republicans or Democrats, I don't think until we understand what we are regulating, there will be a lot of regulation, actually, right? I mean, I don't think the politicians understand what they're regulating, actually, yet. I mean, I've seen some of the regulation drafts. So put that aside, we still need to be responsible, right? Yeah. So at Stanford, what we are doing is we have like about sort of 3 things I would mention that we are doing. One is we established what we call RAIL, which is our responsible AI lifecycle. That is actually at the very top governed by our leadership, the dean, the CEO, the COO, and the C-suite, where they're informed with everything that we are doing AI, right? Either we inform them or they make a decision that it's okay to put in safely, it's safe to put in our environment, actually, right? So that's sort of one aspect of it. And as a result of that, we are tracking everything AI we are doing, right? Whether we are buying from a vendor or we are building ourselves, we are tracking that stuff, right? So we can, if a regulation comes, we know what to do with it, right? So that's one. The second is the models that we are actually building. We have it's a very well-published methodology called FIRM, which I think the government has taken parts of it, like, fair, useful, and reliable models, right? So we have ethics assessments that happens in every model. We look at fairness, we look at value, like the return on investment, and we look at representative data. We have a cross-functional group of people who come together, like ethicists, lawyers, and we look at the models, right, before we put them into production, actually, to use. So that's sort of the other aspect of thing that's important. And I think everybody ought to come up with some kind of a regime if you're going to do models. Now, the question is, and we're pretty mature on the predictive models, and we are working through what that means for Gen AI, right? Because what is the truth, right? In language, it's hard to say, actually. So, but we are getting there. The third is the monitoring and sort of testing of these algorithms. So we are coming up with testing regimes, like what are the most common healthcare tasks people do, right? The providers do. And we use the providers to sort of help us define what the right answers are. So whether it's AWS producing a model or Google, before we put them into applications, we will test against that and see what the results are. And then the project is called MedHelm. We're working in our labs. A lot of this is happening. Sort of starts in the labs with the computer science department, ethics department, and so and then we operationalize it, actually, right? So we are starting to do that. So again, the responsible life cycle is a must. An ability to assess your models based on what your business is, that's a must. And then, you have to be able to test and monitor stuff. So you can then, if the things are going, sort of regressing or whatever, you can make the changes, actually, and track everything you're doing. So I don't think it's that complex, actually, right? You just need to put in the effort and make sure your entire organization is involved in that. The only unique thing is, which is, it surprised me when we did it, is our CIO is leading this actually, right? Rather than it being led by the business or legal department or whatever. They're all part of it, but we're leading it because the tech is so new. People don't know yet what to apply with actually, right? So that's sort of the regime we have, which I think we are maturing, and we are now maturing for that. So you know, and I'll quote Fei Li, who's a human-centered you know, AI person, right? That it's, you know, a lot of people are afraid, and I've been in AI since the mid-90s, the last phase. You know, AI is not doing anything to us. We are doing something with the solutions that essentially, you know, uses AI and it will do. Now, there may be a point, by the way, where the AI may start replacing us. I don't think we are there yet, but if we are careful, I don't think we'll get there, actually.
Well, we have
That's
to
our
allow it to
responsibility.
replace us, right? In the first place, we have to put it in that position. I think I'll offer you like a really oversimplified metaphor. If you imagine that your AI is a human being, as a person, what would you do to make sure that they're performing well, right? It's the same thing as you would do with an actual model, right? You want to make sure that there's high accuracy. You want to make sure that they deliver good results, right? All of the scaffolding around that needs to be the same. So now translate that into technology, and there are a lot of different tools by which you can do that, right? And we can discuss that here. But I think, you know, we overcomplicate this because we use a lot of scary jargon around AI that make it incomprehensible and creates unnecessary boundaries. But the reality is you're replacing some function with another function. In order to ensure that that function is still working correctly, you need a scaffolding around that. Yeah. Whether that function performed by AI model or something else, who cares, right?
And that's quite interesting because, you know, I've read it somewhere, and most of us, we know that it's not, AI is not going to replace us, but those who are not using AI.
Exactly.
I think that's the fundamental to it. But I think shifting back, and I think thank you, Anurag, you know, and also about these two frameworks you talk about, I think that's quite interesting. But shifting back a discussion back to collaboration and partnership, and this is again back to both of you for startups, because you've started your startup in 1921. But if you look at today, collaboration is all about the government agencies and the big conglomerates, the big organization, also tying up with startup companies. But what's the biggest advantage of a startup company is agility, innovation, and flexibility. And what's the biggest challenge for a big organization? They are rigid, they're process-driven, consensus-driven. So what advice you would give to startup companies and to also organization, how can they integrate, you know, two of them together to build up the right partnership? So,
well, there was once upon a time this little company called Microsoft, and an even smaller company called OpenAI. And around 2018, 2019, they decided to collaborate. Why? Right? Because it was very clear how that the amount of velocity that a small company can achieve with a laser focus, avoiding the bureaucracy of the larger company, is significantly higher than if a large company tries to do it internally. And I'm not going to belabor why that is the case. I'm just going to use this as a lighthouse example of an incredible collaboration that occurred right under our eyes and delivered an immense amount of value, not just to those two companies, but to actually the world around us, right? It started the wave. The AI wave today. And I think this is not going to stop being the truth, right? Large companies have distribution, they have customers, they have a lot of power that small companies need. Small companies have the ability to actually get stuff done, right? And this is why this collaboration is so incredibly important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, to continue what Adam mentioned, you know, it's more important right now for especially company focused on B2B AI solution to collaborate with the large corporate. Because we've been discussing a lot about AI, about the data. Access to data is important. Or even more, we can see that right now the quality of the data matters more than the quantity of the data to further fine-tune the AI solution, to make it accurate, make it small model, make it specific professional design for these use cases. But who owns the industry data? It's not like consumer data only like public accessible. Is you have to find a strong partner allow you to access to the high quality data, which not only make your AI model better, but also cheaper. Because when you have high quality small data set, you'll be able to train a small model and build up the application, quickly deploy across your partners. And also another thing, distribution channel. We have a company, build a solution, quickly build up to like $20 million ARR, then introduce to this large partner from the Fortune 500. They mentioned that, okay, through our existing customer, you could make $1 billion revenue right away. This is how we collaborate together. So these are lots of the power and also resources could be bring in for this collaboration. That's also the reason for us, for NEA, for lots of VC, we're trying to be the bridge in between to help them really build up this access and also collaboration. And also another thing I also want to highlight is, I think 10 years ago, when I was an entrepreneur, actually I was using machine learning for healthcare application. We don't really thought about, okay, there's regulation for machine learning or AI. It was not a buzzword. And I think at the time also in Silicon Valley, it's more about we're doing innovation, why we care about Washington, D.C., right? We're innovator. But now it's different. On one side, it's kind of discussion that involve the contributor from the venture capital side, founder side, to make sure the regulator are going to put in the right regulation in the future, not to stop the progress of the AI. Another thing is on the positive side, if you look at the funding from a Natural Science Foundation, from NIH, National Institute of Health, they are changing their mandate from backing the research focus on 20 years from now versus something closer to commercialization. So many companies using AI for certain application could be benefit from the non-dilutive funding and early contract from the government side. That's another thing we are helping founder, and also we wanted to remind founder to leverage and think about it. That will further reduce the development cost of the technology.
So I think I take two things with me. It's about quality data. That's the high quality. And for me, high quality data means the trusted data, which you can trust. And second factor, I definitely take that with me, is the cost factor. I think that makes a big difference, because with Gen AI, LLM models coming in, I hope the software development cost, application development cost will go fundamentally normally down. So looking at the time and the respect of time, because we also want to open up the session for Q&A for the audiences, I have the last question for my panelists, but only in one sentence. If you could, give some kind of advice to the people in the room and the organization, how to thrive in the intelligent age. So Anurag, would you like to start with that?
Yeah, I'm going to use a conjunction, so the sentence might become a little longer. So the one thing is, don't be afraid of trying, right? So just get into it. These solutions are out there, people believe. That's one. The second is keep control of it, right? And these are your solutions. Don't yield to the large language model, large companies, or to the startups, actually. Keep control of it yourself. And I think you will be successful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Rasmus?
I think get 3 phone numbers in the next 10 minutes and start doing AI with somebody here in the room. That's collaborating.
That's collaborating. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, probably 3 sentences. First is don't get limited by the current large language model and also the buzzword of the AI, because we just get started. And also we recently found some new model by some new design, new architecture. They could run more efficiently on top of CPU versus GPU. So that may change also lots of discussion dynamic on the AI infrastructure. And the last thing is we just get started, so just try out and also really just explore opportunity outside the tech sector, outside the typical startup focus.
Thank you. Andreas?
Embrace the technology, act responsibly, and practice patience. Transformations do take time, right? And I think it will take quite a bit of patience and endurance to see value, the real value being created by this new age.
Thank you, Andreas. Ella?
I'll give you a contrarian one. Forget about the tech. Think about the problem that either annoys you the most or you're passionate about the most, but something that's just always on your mind that you can't sleep. You want to solve it. Then figure out which technology you need to solve it, because I am sure it's either already here or it will be pretty soon.
Cool. So I open up the session. There are already people who want to ask questions. So please go ahead.
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. For the recording, we need that.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, thanks for a great session. I've got 3 questions here. So first question is to the person in blue. Which 3 phone numbers should I get?
Rasmus, which 3 numbers?
I mean, the 3 you can get, or get 10 and then take the best 3.
And the other 2 questions are related. So the focus here has been on AI and the benefits, etc. focus on AI and short-term profitability. The flip side and the elephant in the room is the ESG bit, and people seem to be kicking that bucket down the road. Sorry. Hence, do you feel that companies at the moment are incorrectly focusing on AI and ignoring ESG? And the follow-up on this is, given a lot of AI at the moment draws a lot of energy from data centers, is there inherently a problem using AI and the impact on ESG?
Big question. Who wants to pick it up? Yeah.
I could address that because I think lots of hype's around AI application. So you may get the impression that, okay, we don't talk about ESG. There are tons of energy consumption, GPU consumption built in AI application. There are also tons of momentum going on within AI infrastructure. What is the focus on AI infrastructure? Reduce energy consumption, reduce GPU consumption, latency issue with edge computing, data privacy. So we already see we have portfolio company, for example, doing analog computing, reduce energy consumption by at least 100x when you're using AI. There are also other applications for data center, reduce energy consumption by 15x. So I think essentially we'll see still larger scale AI adoption increasing this ESG concern. But meanwhile, there's a big problem. There's big opportunity come out for entrepreneur to focus on. So when you look at a big problem, I think the difference between entrepreneur and the non-entrepreneur is big problem. Oh my God, what should we do? Entrepreneur, big problem. Bingo, I got a great idea to work out.
Maybe
you want to
just
add
quickly add
Sure.
the sustainability question. Of course, energy consumption is a big topic, and thinking about the right infrastructure, the right way to kind of reduce that is important. But I think there's also a lot of potential benefit of AI to help sustainable development, and I think that's something that needs a lot more attention on, from precision agriculture to more indirect effects through whatever better materials and kind of scientific discoveries enabled by this technology, and we need to set the right incentives that work in this space happens.
Okay. So next question.
Hello, I'm the founder of a new social media app where your friends post for you. We use AI in the app in several ways, and I consider myself a tech pioneer, and my app is all about collaboration, so I think it's befitting to ask, would any of you on the panel consider looking over my pitch deck?
Send it in.
That was a good pitch. We take that. There's one question back. Yeah.
Hi. So I'm actually with the Mongolian government, so advising Mongolian Prime Minister on national AI strategy.
I'm from Inner Mongolian, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You were looking familiar.
Yeah.
Right.
Mongolian house is very fantastic.
Yes, and I start every conversation in international.
There's a party
forum that
tonight?
Yeah, every night.
If my ancestors did something wrong to you, I'm deeply sorry. Okay. Anyways, I just wanted to raise awareness in the room about the developing countries and AI penetration to a developing countries market. And in Mongolia, education sector is getting transformed by ChatGPT because we didn't have enough educational content in Mongolian, but ChatGPT for some reason magically has amazing Mongolian abilities. But one problem that we face is it's based on internet data, but there's a whole bunch of data in the world that's not on internet. Mongolian culture is nomadic, so it's not written on internet or digital. So Mongolian government and I'm pushing an effort across all the developing countries to collaborate together to crowdsource our intangible cultural assets and everyday thinking, people's viewpoint of view, and create a large data set so that this ChatGPT and all the other models can be universally applicable to all the other cultures across the world. And that collaboration requires enormous amount of technical challenges. And I was reading Professor Andrea's papers on crowdsourcing and reinforcement learning with the bandit systems. And that, I want to talk to you on that, how to deploy that in Mongolia we are giving a call to nomads and asking our cultural questions, dictating that into a database, and we now need to design an AI system that knows what it doesn't know so that it can keep exploring a culture. So collaboration is not just about the developed countries, but the developing countries needs to have that last mile delivery so that AI become a universal standard like an internet. So I just wanted to raise the awareness in this room, and I think this is a fantastic room to do so. And if you can help me with any way or manner in that effort, I'm asking for your cooperation. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So I think there's a question in the back. Thank you so much for the contribution. I think you should take his number, Andreas.
Happy
So
to
that's
follow
one of the
up
numbers you have to take.
Yeah.
Mr. Anurag, I have a question. My name is YP Singh. I'm from India. We are all talking about the artificial intelligence in this the new age, very rightly. Many decisions are being taken by artificial intelligence. But do you not think that if we increase the use of artificial intelligence, we will be restricting the natural intelligence of the evolution of the human beings? What should we do?
Yeah, somebody asked me in a panel, what should I be skeptical of in AI? And I said the I, right? Because that is what you should be skeptical. And that's what I was saying earlier. If you're going to apply AI, you need a regime to figure out what solutions actually work for you. And I think, like it was mentioned, solve your problems, actually, right? That's what it is. I think, in fact, I was just at one of the Indian providers' houses, and we're trying to solve some problem. And I feel like they've worked with so many different health systems that they've already made progress in solving them. So I'm like, okay, well, this is good collaboration, actually, I'm going to do. And then I think I want to mention something about sort of the Mongolian house, by the way. The music is great there. So everybody.
And the
I
food.
love it. They're the friendliest over there. Right? But that is one of our missions is, because you won't be able to get all the providers and the specialists like people like Stanford and Mayo and others have, right? So one of the parts of our mission is to bottle some of that stuff and then make it available to people, sort of apply it, test it out at Stanford, and then make sure you can actually distribute. And I think AI helps you with that, actually, especially in this age, to do that. And we would love to see more and more of that happen.
Yeah.
That's great. So with that sense, I would say there's 1 minute left if somebody wants to ask any question. So the last question. So the mic.
Hello. Thank you. I have a question for you because you mentioned that startups and corporates can collaborate to get access to quality data. We do get access from financial institutions to high quality data to build AI applications for them. What we don't get though is the allowance to then use these models to actually sell them to other financial institutions so that they actually can benefit from it. What would you kind of change in order to give us that edge?
Yeah, of course, this is also a negotiation process. Large corporate always want you to customize, only design a solution, only serve them. But on the startup side, you want to build a billion-dollar business, you want to expand and also be the leader for the vertical industry. So of course, there's a negotiation at the beginning and also justify that if I only use your own data to train, it's not a complete data library for this industry. And only if I could work with so many different financial institutions, I was in healthcare, different hospital system, it won't have the data isolation problem. Our industry, although we talk about there's so much data, always have data isolation problem. Through you, they be able to have a relative more robust and also accurate model. That's one thing. Another thing is also try to think about what technology solution gonna help them solve the concern. What's their concern? Typically, you're working with CIO or CTO. Number one thing they're concerned is they're thinking about is not AI, it's about compliance, data privacy. If your solution came into the place saying that I'm not only building an AI solution, I also had federal learning, federal computing platform in place. You don't need to worry about I'm moving or transfer your data. I'm just using training model. I'm going to another one and provide you better service. You don't have any compliance concern. They will be open up to allow you to work with others as well. So there's lots of things we can do together. Of course, as a VC, what we also do is not only just introducing startup to the CTO at a large corporate, we also try to educate them. I try to serve as a small think tank, tell them what is the best playbook for both sides to have a win-win situation, as you mentioned. Initially, everyone came to the place always with a mindset, how I optimize my game. But this is really a game of AI that everyone could be benefit, and we could have extraordinary growth for everyone's business.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I think also thank you so much for my panelists. I would like to end with the statement from Ellen Said. I think Rasmus just mentioned, the best way to predict future is to invent it. So let's collaborate and invent it together.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.